Okay, good evening, everybody. So, for tonight, so we're going to learn or we're going to discuss your second topic this third quarter under the Learning Episode 1 entitled Interpret Data Represented in Multimodal Forms. So, for today, we're going to learn how to understand and how to read information shown in different visual forms like tables, charts, or even in diagrams. And those things that I said a while ago, the tables, charts, and diagrams are called multimodal forms because they mix words, numbers, and images. And our goal after this lesson is that you should be able to explain what a visual is showing, spot the main patterns, and avoid common mistakes when interpreting data. So our topic for today's discussion is interpret data represented in multimodal forms. So before we proceed, may I present to you our learning objectives or our learning points for this lesson. First, identify and describe the different types of multimodal forms such as charts, tables, and figures used to present data. Number 2, analyze and interpret data presented in various multimodal formats to derive meaningful information and insights using the strategies in reading and viewing strategies. Number 3, give examples of continuous, discrete, and categoric data. Number 4, critically evaluate the accuracy, clarity, and relevance of information shown in a given multimodal representations. And number 5, demonstrate understanding by accurately interpreting and presenting data using appropriate multimodal forms in assessment activities. Okay, so let's start. Now, imagine you're scrolling through social media and you see a post about the most popular online platforms among teenagers. The post rather includes a colorful bar graph showing percentages. Now, answer this question. Do you get a clearer understanding from the paragraph or from the graph? And I will give you 1 minute to do the activity and then explain. Okay, so for some, they get a clearer understanding from the paragraph because paragraph may describe the same facts. However, let us always remember that a bar graph shows the comparison quickly. Kasi 'di ba sa isang bar graph, makikita mo kung tumaas, kung bumaba, kung same lang sila ng level, something like that. And then the graph helps you see which platform is most popular at a glance and how big the differences are. Okay, next. Here is the definition of multimodal forms. When we say multimodal forms, as it says here, it refers to materials that use more than one mode, such as written words, images, numbers, symbols, and graphics to represent information. They help us understand data more efficiently by presenting it in a structured and visual way. So in simpler terms, ang multimodal is ginagamit or use more than one way to present information like the words, pictures, and numbers together. Now, why multimodal forms matters? First, it helps people who learn visually or who need quick comparisons. For example, yung sinagutan nyo kanina about the kung alin ang mas mataas na social media platforms, I think. Kasi 'di ba when using a bar graph, mas madali nating ma-identify kung alin yung pinaka-popular, kung hindi mostly ginagamit ng mga tao or kung aling platform yung aling platform yung minsan lang ginagamit ng tao, something like that. And then number two, it also reduces long text by showing the main points visually. Kasi 'di ba kapag nag-present or kapag may pinakita sa atin na isang graph, na isang charts rather, mas madali nating maintindihan, mas madali nating ma-identify instead of babasahin mo yung interpretation na pagkahaba-haba. So that is a multimodal forms. So here are the examples of multimodal forms. First, we have the charts and graphs in news reports, tables in research studies, infographics shared online, and then figures and diagrams in textbooks. Next. Now, the purpose of multimodal forms. So the main purpose of multimodal forms is to first simply complex information or simplify rather complex information wherein they condense large amounts of data into clearer views, minimize or shorten or what do you call that? Parang minimize nila yung text and mas nagpo-focus na lang sila sa graphs para mas naintindihan ng um, readers ng mga tao. For example, showing monthly sales in one graph instead of many sentences. For example, sa showing monthly sales, for example, sa 2017, ang monthly sales nyo is 10,000 and then sa 2018, ang monthly sales nyo is 15,000 and then sa 2019, ang monthly sales nyo is 25,000. So based on that example, mas ma-identify mo na kung aling year or aling month or aling year kayo mas nagkaroon ng malaking monthly sales instead of gagawin mo siyang in paragraph which is mas mahirap or mas complex siyang basahin sa mga hindi nakakaintindi masyado ng isang paragraph. Next, highlight relationships and patterns. They allow readers to compare and contrast information easily. Gaya nga ng example ko kanina, or let's take this as an example. A chart used in a school report to prove a point. For example, absenteeism. Ay, hindi pala. In here, I'm sorry. Example of highlight relationships and patterns is a line graph showing steady growth, or yung example natin kanina sa simplify complex information wherein, di ba, mas makikita mo yung relationship or yung patterns or yung compare and contrast between your sales in the previous month to your sales in this month to your sales in this month or to your sales this year to your sales last year. Number three, support evidence-based conclusions, wherein in here they visually reinforce arguments or findings in research and presentations. For example, a chart used in a school report to prove a point. Number four, engage the audience. Wherein in here, they make learning more interactive and appealing by combining visuals and text. Kasi in students or in a class, there are diverse learners wherein meron yung ibang learners na mas nakaka-grasp sila ng knowledge kapag may nakikita sila. May mga estudyante din na mas nakaka-grasp ng knowledge kapag nakikinig lang sila. May mga estudyante din na both visually and both na nakaka-gain or nakaka-grasp ng knowledge kapag may nakikita sila and at the same time naririnig nila. And there are also students who prefer or yung mga student na kinesthetic learners wherein yung may galaw sila ng galaw, hindi sila mapakali kapag nandun na sila sa right, na kapag nandun sila sa isang upuan and then lilipat na naman. That is, or those are the types of learners. And here, examples, using a colorful infographics that students like to read. And then number five, last purpose of multimodal forms is to promote clarity and accuracy. Wherein in here, they minimize misunderstanding by organizing data in an accessible format. For example, yung labeled na table wherein it is less likely to be misunderstood. Now, for each purpose, give one practical classroom or everyday example. Number one. Okay, so sa number one na purpose, simplify complex information. Number two, highlight relationships and patterns. Number three, support evidence-based conclusions. Fourth, engage the audience. And number five, promote clarity and accuracy. I will give you 1 minute to do the activity. Okay, moving on to the types of multimodal forms. First, we have the charts. Wherein ang isang charts, it is a graphic that displays data using shapes such as bar, lines, or even slices. And an example of chart is bar chart showing test results. And ang isang purpose or use ng isang chart as a type of multimodal forms is to compare categories or show growth trends. Aside from chart, we also have tables wherein you're going to arrange systematically, you are going to arrange the data systematically in rows and in columns. For example, table listing monthly sales, gaya ng sinabi ko kanina. And then, ang purpose niya is to organize information clearly for quick reference. Kasi 'di ba, pagka-glance mo pa lang or pagkatingin mo pa lang sa isang table or sa isang table, maa-identify mo na yung monthly sales, kung yung monthly sales nyo ba is nag-grow, kung yung monthly sales nyo ba is bumaba or nag-retain lang, something like that. And then third, figure. A labeled visual such as an illustration, diagram, or a photograph. An example of figure is of course a figure showing the human digestive system or yung mga visual aids. Ito na yung mga figure, yung visual aids. Aside from human digestive system, we also have yung cell sa science, yung yung cell niya wherein makikita mo yung mitochondria, yung basta yung mga parts ng isang cell, yung nuclei, tama ba? Yung nuclei, nucleus, something like that. So that is a figure. And then, yung purpose niya ng isang figure is to explain or visualize complex ideas. For example, yung plant cell or the animal cell. Kasi 'di ba hindi mo naman makikita yung internal or yung kaloob-looban ng isang cell. So, ang purpose ng figure is to explain or visualize complex ideas. Kasi 'di ba in a plant cell, nandun yung mga parts niya, yung mitochondria, yung tama ba? Mitochondria, cell wall, something like that. Same through with the animal cell. Or same through din with the digestive system or any systems, the endocrine systems, the respiratory system, the cardiovascular system, I think, and such. Next, we have the diagram, wherein when we say diagram, it is a simplified drawing showing how parts relate or how a process works. For example, a flowchart of the enrollment process. And then, ang purpose niya is to illustrate steps or relationship clearly. Ano ba pag sinabi natin flowchart? Ano ba pag sinabi natin what do you call that? Ano pag sinabi natin flow chart? Okay. Kapag sinabi natin what do you call that? Kapag sinabi natin flow chart is from the word itself. Flow from the word itself. Flow wherein it depicts a process wherein, diba, kapag nag-enroll kayo, there are process. For example, ang una yung gagawin nakalagay sa flowchart, ang una yung gagawin is to get an enrollment. Tama ba? Ang enrollment. For example lang ang una yung gagawin is kumuha kayo ng enrollment paper and then fill up nyo. And then after that, punta kayo sa admin, punta kayo sa, and after pagpunta sa admin, pumunta kayo sa, after na admin, pumunta kayo sa library, magpaperma, something like that. And in our school, ang flowchart namin ng enrollment process is of course, kukuha muna kami ng route sheet, ng route or route sheet. And then after going to the route sheet, punta kami sa library, I think. Punta kami sa library, magpapaperma sa librarian. And then after going to library, punta kami sa SAS wherein magpapaperma kami sa aming guidance counselor. And then after pumunta sa guidance counselor, balik kami sa registrar. And then pupunta na kami sa aming dean to get or para kunin yung mga subjects namin na kukunin namin this sem. And then isusulat namin siya sa isang paper. And then after that, after writing the subjects, the units, and then after if you fill up yung mga necessary informations na need na i-fill up, balik kami ulit sa registrar. And then habang nakapila, ipapasa namin yung papel na finilapan namin and then ipiprint na nila. And then after printing, balik kami sa cashier magpapaperma. Then balik kami sa accounting office magpapaperma. And after accounting office, balik na kami sa admin or sa registrar's office namin para markahan nila as enrolled. So that is how that is the process ng pag-enroll sa aming school. So that is an example of diagram. Parang may sinus or it is a type of multimodal text wherein yun yung flow na kailangan mong sundin. Next, we have the infographic. As you all know, you know this one. A creative blend of text, visuals, and statistics. For example, infographic on climate change effects, and then ang purpose niya is to summarize information attractively. Of course, an example of infographics is what you did last quarter, wherein pinagawa ko kayo ng infographics about the developmental model of intercultural sensitivity by Milton, and then of course, the barriers of communication, the 7 barriers of communication. And then lastly, we have the graph, wherein it is a visual display of numerical data such as the line, pie, bar graph, etc. I think mas nakikita to sa isang research, sa isang academic text, sa isang academic paper. And an example is line graph of temperature changes. And of course, ang purpose niya is to show patterns, correlations, or the comparisons. Okay. Next. Okay. Here are the examples of chart. Sa column, ganito. Sa pie chart, something like that. Pwede yung 2D, yung 3D, or yung dalawang circles, something like that, or yung donut. Next, we have the line. As from the word itself, line. Line lang talaga siya. Bar graph, clustered bar, stack bar, 3D clustered bar, or the 3D stack bar. Next, we have the area. Area, stack area, 100% stack area, 3D area, 3D stack area, 3D 100% stack area. Next, we have the combo, wherein ganyan siya. Combo ng column tsaka ng line. Pati din dito, combo ng column tsaka line. Dito, combo ng stack area and clustered column. Next, ganito naman ang example ng isang table. Wherein in here, question, I can access the water I require to meet my household consumption needs. Strongly agree, disagree, neither agree nor disagree, agree, strongly agree. And then, number of responses. Dito nyo lalagay kung ilan ang strongly disagree sa question, ilan ang nag-disagree, hanggang sa strongly disagree. And then, of course, ito total nyo na siya. Next, examples of figures. Technology, visual, makikita, so it is an oral or naririnig, kaya tenga, learning through play, problem solving, wherein isusolve niya, kinesthetic is gumagalaw, technology is ayun, yung symbols na tatlong bilog, that is a symbol of technology, or figure rather of technology. Next, multimodal learning, or example, this is an example of a diagram. Sa visual, I see, I remember, memory. And kinesthetic, it is kinesthetic. Sorry for the typo. I do, I understand. Wherein, in he, metacognition. In the auditory, I hear, I know, it is the cognition. And of course, sa gitna is the deeper learning, wherein pinagsasama-sama na yung tatlo, yung auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. Next, the infographics. So this is an example of infographics. Ito yung mga ilalagay nyo na design, pie chart, pictorial chart, pictorial line chart, bar graph, or bar chart, or yung font nyo, sans serif, serif, or condense, something like this, yung theme, yung fonts, and such. Next, ito naman example ng graphs. Next, okay. Reading and viewing strategies for interpreting data. Okay, first, to interpret data effectively, you must apply both reading and viewing strategies. Follow these steps. First, identify the type of visual. Of course, dito, i-identify mo siya. I-identify mo kung what type of visual siya. Kung chart ba siya, graph, figure, or table. And then after that, i-recognize mo na yung purpose ng visual na nakita mo. Kung nagko-compare ba siya between two things, and i-explain ba niya yung growth ng isang topic, or nagbibigay siya ng summary as itself. Number 2, Examine the title and labels. Of course, every data or every visuals is my data na nakalagay. And my data and title na nakalagay. And it is important na dapat na pay attention din sa titles ng data when you are interpreting datas. And of course, meron dito yung labels, legends, and labels and legends explain what each part represent. Oh, for example, ayaw mabak. Oh, ito. Oh, for example, dito yung label niya is CS. Yung pangalawa, CCS. Or GCS. O dito naman, yung yellow na part, that is a label, MMDL approaches. Yung 13% is the MM datasets. Yung 46% or the color blue is the MM applications. And then yung 11% is the others. O ganun din dito sa isang product trends by month. Yung blue is the tablet, blue, tapos may box. Yung laptop is purple, I think. Purple ba? Ay, pink pala, pink. Sorry. Pink laptop na may circle, and then yung brown is the desktop na may triangle. So as you can see, ang mas mataas or trends na product from January to June is tablets. Paangat siya. Paangat siya, yes. Sa January 10, February 20 hanggang sa June is naging 100 na siya. However, yung pababa naman is desktop wherein from 80 noong January is naging I think 8 na lang siya nung June. Tapos sa laptop naman, yung color pink, pataas, pababa, and then pataas, tas bumaba ulit, and then tumaas ulit. So, parang lulubog lilitaw yung product trends ng isang laptop based sa example na nakalagay dito. Next. Number 3, read the units or measurement. Always check for scales, percentages, or numerical values to avoid misinterpretations. Of course, when you are interpreting data, it is really important na pay attention din sa mga percentages na ilalagay mo in your interpretation. For instance, in here, 46%, tapos ang nalagay mo sa interpretation mo is 44. Do you think that it is reliable na? Or do you think na yung nilagay mo na 44% na nilagay mo sa isang interpretation is correct? Or reliable na? Or reliable ba? Of course, hindi. Kasi ang na-compute nyo, percentage is 46. And writing 44% is not reliable and inappropriate. Next, observe trends and relationship. First, identify increases, decreases, or consistent values, and then look for patterns, similarities, and differences. For instance, in here, the product trends by month. Next, infer meaning. Tanongin yung sarili nyo, ano ba ibig sabihin ng data na to? Or ano ba ang gustong iparating ng data na to sa akin? Or ano ba yung conclusion or what conclusion can I draw? Or ano yung conclusion na maiisip ko based on just seeing the data itself? And then, after asking yourself those questions, connect the visual information to its textual informations. Of course, dapat yung data or yung visual or yung chart na nilagay mo is of course dapat same rin sila sa explanation or interpretation na ilalagay mo sa baba ng visual. For example, dito, dito, 46%. Of course, kapag sa chart, 46% ang nakalagay. Sa interpretation mo dapat, makikita din doon na 46% ang nakalagay. Kasi 'di ba in writing a chart or in chart, simplified version siya. However, in interpretation, yun na yung na version na detailed version ng data, detailed version ng visuals na ginawa mo. And then, number 6, evaluate accuracy and clarity wherein check if the data is up to date, sourced, or presented objectively. Identify possible biases or missing information. And then, by combining critical reading and viewing, learners move beyond merely seeing visuals. They analyze and understand the information they convey. Now, here are the common errors and misconceptions in data interpretation. First, ignoring labels or titles. It is important and necessary that it is important and necessary na dapat alam mo yung title ng data na tinitingnan mo because you might think that the chart is about something else or baka hindi tugma yung interpretation mo kapag hindi mo binasa yung title. Kunwari, yung graph is about sales growth or sales increase ng isang company. Pero nung hindi mo binasa yung title, ang alam mo na is about enrollment. So, there is a miscommunication. Second, overlooking scales or units wherein misreading the numerical range can distort conclusions. In here, of course, a bar graph from 0 to 100 is different from 0 to 10. Kasi 'di ba hindi naman sila same. Kasi mas mataas yung ng 100 and mas mababa yung 10. And of course, hindi din sila same sa baba or sa side kung yung 0 to 10 ba is kung yung 0 to 10 ba is yung kung ilan yung bumili ngayong araw or yung 0 to 100 is kung ilan ba ang sumagot sa isang questionnaires ngayong araw. Something like that. Number 3, assuming correlation means causation. Just because two trends appear related doesn't mean one causes the other. Now, two things can increase together without one causing the another. What's the meaning of that? Two things can increase together without one. Two things can increase together without one causing each other. What do you think, or what is your interpretation to that? Okay. Just because two things increase or decreases at the same time doesn't mean that one causes the other. For example, when ice cream sales goes up, swimming pool attendance also goes up. But that doesn't mean that eating ice cream makes people swim. Both just happen more often during hot weather. Clear? Are we clear on that? Assuming correlation means causation, or just because two things happen at the same time or seem related, it doesn't mean one caused the other to open. Or in statistics, this is what we call correlation without causation. For example, aside from the ice cream I gave a while ago, when umbrella sales go up, rainy days also increases. But buying umbrellas doesn't cause the rain. It's the rain that causes people to buy umbrellas. Or another example, as the number of cell phones increases, the number of car accidents may also rise. However, it doesn't mean phones cause accidents directly. It could be due to distracted driving and not the phone itself, or not the phone themselves. So, when you interpret data, don't jump to conclusions. If two things change together, look for a real reason behind it. And there might be a third factor affecting both data. Are we clear? Okay, third or fourth rather. Focusing on visuals without reading explanations. In here, the accompanying text often clarifies the data context. What does it mean? What does it mean? The accompanying text often clarifies the context. Now, in this number 4, the common errors and misconceptions in data interpretation. Many people look only on charts, graph, or even in pictures, and they think na naintindihan na nila lahat ng gustong iparating ng data na yon. However, visuals alone can sometimes be misleading if we don't also read the accompanying text, the title, or the captions of that charts, graph, or pictures that we are seeing. Of course, the text gives important context. It tells us what the data means, where it came from, and why it matters. And without reading it, we might interpret the information incorrectly. For example, a graph might show that school A has higher test scores than school B. Now, if we only look at the visual, we might think that school A is simply better. But the text might explain that school A had fewer students or different test types, which changes the meaning entirely. So, visuals and text work together, or they go hand in hand. And the visuals give us a quick overview, and then the text explains the full story behind the numbers. Good interpretation means paying attention to both the visuals and the text. Okay, number 5. Overgeneralizing findings, wherein in here, one dataset cannot represent every possible case, wherein overgeneralizing means making a big or broad conclusion based on only one set of data or one small example. It's like it's like saying this happened once, so it must always happen. But in research or in data interpretation, that is not accurate. Just because data shows a certain result in one group, time, or place, it doesn't mean it applies to everyone or every situation. Let us always remember that the result depends on context, sample size, and conclusion or in conditions. For example, if a survey of 20 students from one school says that they all like math, we can conclude that all students in the country like math. Or if one experiment shows that a certain method works well for one class, it doesn't mean it will work for every class. Or in classroom, hindi lahat ng strategies na ginamit ng isang teacher sa star section is appropriate or is effective na strategy na gagamitin din nga sa lower section. Kasi kunwari, yung strategy na ginamit mo as teacher sa higher section is more on questioning. Do you think na sa lower section, lahat ng questions na binato mo sa star section is masasagutan ng mga nasa lower section, di ba? Hindi. That is why it is very important to avoid overgeneralizing. And we should always look for more evidence before making a broad claim. Okay, that's the end of our discussion. Interpreting data, and multimodal forms. So thank you for listening.